Hello, let's take a closer look at Lua scripts. Lua is a simple programming language that lets you tell the app to do certain things to a fractal. We have provided a lot of ready-made scripts that you can use right out of the box without any knowledge in Lua scripts. And if you want to learn, you can also edit scripts and make new ones in the app to suit your needs. It's not as hard as it may seem. Lua scripts comes in two flavors. There are scripts for making new random fractals, and there are tweak scripts for changing existing fractals, like making them brighter, zooming out, or adding a new variation in a pre-group, for instance. Today I'm going to focus on scripts that makes random fractals. If we look at the app here, you can see we have two tabs up here now, configured and scripted. In configured, as I said in the overview video, is just as usual what we are used to, the list of variation here, and the pre-group, normal group, post-group, the linked for transforms, and the final transforms. To get to the scripted Lua scripts that make random fractals, you tap the scripted here and you slide out the pane here, and now instead of the list of variations we have a list of Lua scripts. These are the factory scripts that Steven and I have made, and you can try them all to see what they do, except for row crackle, because it's broken and it will crash the app. But it's just only thing that happens is that you have to force quit the app and then you can start it again. Crackle will be fixed. And there's another variation also that is broken, so that will be fixed too. But for now we have these bugs. So if you want to use one of these, you just choose them like this. This Arcsin Julia here, or Arcsin H Julia, I don't know how it's pronounced, and you hit the make button just as usual. You can see you get a different kind of fractals than we had before. And if we choose B circle, you get another kind. And there are quite a few of them here. And these scripts can of course be built upon. You can take them into, save them into favorites, or save them as to file, and you can load them into the Xform editor and the variance editor, of course. If you have row Julia here, let's look at that. That will have the Julia variation in all the positions, in the pre-group, in the normal group, in the post-group, in the linked group, and in the final transform. All Julias. And you have several of these. You have a row Julia here. It's the same. It have a Julia in all the positions. And these scripts are a good starting point for experimenting and adding new variations and new stuff in the pre-groups, and to see where you can take it. But you have a simple start, and they look very nice in their own right. We don't have that many 3D scripts. We only have two, actually, I think. Row Julia 3DX, and we have Flowers 3D. Or we have Brocade 3D also. But these can be used for building 3D fractals and adding stuff to them. The Symbol 3 and the Symbol 4 scripts, they are legacy scripts from an old Fractal app on macOS called Oxidizer. and it was developed by a guy named David Burnett. And Oxidizer used Lua scripts, and the two best scripts were Simul 4 and Simul 3. And I think it's nice that Oxidizer lives on inside of Fractal Architect. I was a keen user of Oxidizer, and actually did a tutorial on Oxidizer too. That was kind of how I got started doing Fractal tutorials. And Stephen liked it too, so when I suggested that we try to incorporate Lua, he went along with that and made a great job doing that. And Simul 3 and Simul 4 are the same scripts that were in Oxidizer. If we want to make our own scripts now, how do we do? Well, let's start with the basic Julia here. And a good way to, what's important when you try to find good fractals that can be made into scripts, is that you get a mix of variations that will produce a high number of usable fractals per roll of the digital dice. And let's see here, if we often I start with Julia because it's that's like a base variation. So I try to combine it with another variation here. Don't mix up too many variations because it won't make it better, just more complex. So let's try what? Petal. So now we have Julia with a weight of 1 and Petal with a weight of 0.75. Let's look at what that looks like. Yeah, can be rather nice, but nothing exceptional yet. And when you go on and you experiment like this, you always stumble upon good fractals that you can save to your favorites. So I try to lower the values to see what that will give. When you find a good mix of variations, the weights are very important. Oh, that is rather nice. I think I can do something with that. So I put that one in the favorites. Just changing these weights, if I make the petal more high weight than the Julia, that will give another result than if the Julia is of a higher weight than the petal. Let's change it around. I lower the petal and I raise the Julia. I think that is better. So then we want now something in the pre-group. Let's maybe, to get real good looking, solid looking fractals, you need blur. So let's add blur there. I took away the linear, that was stupid because I need it. We put that back and then we find the blur. Don't want that to set that too high. Try it there. Where are we now? 0.18. Okay, let's try that. You see it can be a little high on some fractals. This first one, that's much too high. Can we lower it more? Will that have an effect? Let's take a look. Not much. I think we have to raise it again. If we raise it too high, the highest weight will be somewhere around there. It can be higher and it can be lower, but there will be a wide variety of weights. I think that works rather well, actually. That was rather interesting too. No, it wasn't. So you just keep on rolling and rolling and rolling to find something that give a high rate of usable fractals. But let's put something in the post group too. Let's put a Julian in the post group. That, I don't know, we have a linked, can link a Julian to, and we need a final variation, final transformation, final transform. I can speak, I know it. I could this morning. We need a final transform. So let's keep it linear. It won't make anything too much to the shape, but it's a good way to zoom in and zoom out to raise the value of the final transform. Well, this can take a rather long time, so we won't go any deeper into this now, but this is the process. And you find things and you try to change them up. Let's get rid of the petal and let's put in a spiral. It will give another result. Not a very nice result. Actually a rather ugly result. Let's take out the spiral again. And you keep on until you find something that you really like. You fine tune it. The weights, you work a lot with the weights because that is the key to finding good scripts. If you have set up your variations here, it's important also to remember that some of these variations have parameters that can be set, like the Julian, and you do that here on values. You go in here and say that I often want a higher maximum value on power on the Julian, and sometimes higher distance and sometimes lower distance. That gives a bit different results, like that. If you have set up your variations here, it's important also to remember that some of these variations have parameters that can be set, like the Julian, and you do that here on values. You go in here and say that I often want a higher maximum value on power on the Julian, and sometimes higher distance and sometimes lower distance. That gives a bit different results, like that. And it's also important, not so fast, it's also important to go into this cogwheel here to set the base parameters for the random generation, like how many transforms do we want. We have a maximum of 3 here now. If I have a maximum of 11, I will get very busy fractals, and probably not better fractals. It's better to keep the number low, 3 or 4. If I want to use linked transforms, I have to set one here. I have one linked there. Do I have a linked setup here? Just linear. Let's throw something in. It's a linked hypertile. I don't know if I have tried that sometime. And you set it and you have one linked transform. And when you say that I like this now, I want to save it as a script. So I go up to the menu and I have save settings as script here. I tap that. That script has now ended up in the mine. You can't see it here now because it is read from file every time you go to that page. So we go back to mine and here I have unnamed. We try that now. You see we'll get the same result. And we don't want it to call it unnamed, so we want to name it. Then we tap on this icon of a folder here. It will open the folder on my iPad with all my scripts, and I have unnamed here, and I can rename it here. Tutorial script. Like that. And I go back to the app. It's still called unnamed because I have to go to the factory and back again, so it will read the list in from disk. We have tutorial script there. And that's how you make your own scripts. Random fractal scripts. It's not harder than that. The hard thing is finding good mixes of variations and weights. That can be very time consuming if you want to find something that is really good. But the longer you go on, the more sure you can be of actually finding something that is useful. And a good tip is that when you search for that golden variation combination, if you find something that is rather good, save it as a script, and then you keep on and you add something else and save that as a script. And if you have 3-4 scripts that you have saved, you choose the best of them and you can delete the rest. But that way you can be sure that you don't lose anything that actually was good, because when you stop changing variations here and changing weights, it's very easy to get lost and lose what you had from the beginning. If you have more questions about that, you can ask me in the user group on Facebook, or you can ask me in the comments to this video. I will try to answer them. So now we'll stop for now, and I will make another video tutorial on the tweak scripts. So goodbye for now.